Welcome to another deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
Today we're diving into the global landscape of women in research. And trust me, the data is just, well, it's full of surprises. We're going to uncover which countries have surprisingly high percentages of women researchers, and guess what? Some of them are not the usual suspects at all. Think Mongolia.
Oh, wow.
Guatemala even.
Yeah.
We'll also dig into the reasons behind these high numbers.
Okay.
And of course, we'll take a look at the other side of the coin as well. The countries where women, they remain underrepresented in research.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating and nuanced topic.
Right.
Because you might assume that higher levels of economic development automatically lead to greater gender equality in research, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, what makes this deep dive so intriguing.
In the data skies, we take our flight. Trends and numbers come to life. Colors and charts, they dance and play. Showing truth in a visual way. In GenderDecoded, we uncover truths and stories like no other. In the data waves we find the secret maps of humankind.
Got data from research workforces across the globe. And I think what's really fascinating about this is it's not just about the numbers.
Right.
It's the why behind the numbers.
Yeah.
The trends, the cultural things, the policies.
All the things
Yeah.
that go into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's jump in and talk about those unexpected leaders.
Okay.
Who are they and what makes their stories unique?
Well, get ready for this. You ready?
I'm ready.
Armenia,
Okay.
Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan,
Really?
Kyrgyzstan.
Wow.
These countries actually have some of the highest percentages of women researchers in the entire world.
That was not at all what I was expecting.
I know, right?
I was thinking like Scandinavian countries.
Right. Nordic countries.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Exactly.
So what's going on? I mean, these are former Soviet bloc countries.
Right.
We don't typically think of those as being,
At the forefront.
the
of
forefront.
gender equality.
Exactly. So what's the story?
Well, if you think back to the Soviet era, there was such an emphasis on STEM education for everybody, regardless of gender. And that has really had like this lasting impact
Okay.
in these countries. And it's created this foundation for generations of women to enter these scientific fields.
So it's like a ripple effect from that period
Exactly.
that is still being felt today.
Yeah, but it's not just history.
Right.
Take Armenia, for example. Not only do they have this great, strong foundation in STEM education, but they've also been really conscious about creating a really supportive environment for women in research.
So what does that look like practically?
So they've implemented scholarships
You know,
and grants specifically for women who are pursuing STEM degrees or research careers.
wow.
And they've also been focusing on promoting women into leadership positions within research institutions and universities.
And so they're trying to create
Role models.
role models and those
Pathways.
pathways for women to advance.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like a multi-pronged approach.
Yeah.
Where they're hitting it from all these different angles.
Uh-huh.
Let's look at a different country then. How about Uruguay?
Ooh, Uruguay's interesting because they've taken a bit of a different approach.
Okay.
They've really focused on integrating women into research as a driver of economic growth.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So they're seeing the economics potential of this.
Exactly.
Okay.
They see it as essential for their development.
So it's not just a social.
That's not just an economic issue.
They see the benefit.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what have they done?
So they've invested heavily in their research infrastructure. They've created incentives for businesses to hire women researchers.
Wow.
And they've implemented really robust parental leave policies and affordable childcare.
Right, because those are the things that allow women to actually participate.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so that's really interesting. We're seeing these kind of different approaches.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what about the cultural side of things?
Oh, absolutely.
Does that play a role in any of these success stories?
Definitely. Look at the Philippines.
Okay.
There's a strong cultural acceptance of women in science professions. It's not seen as something unusual.
So there's not that same societal pressure
There's not that.
to kind of stay away from
Yeah, you don't have
those
that.
fields.
Yeah.
So what's the result of that?
Well, in the Philippines, women are very well represented in university science programs.
Interesting.
And they're much more likely to pursue advanced degrees in those fields.
So it's like a self-reinforcing cycle
It is.
where the acceptance...
It creates the opportunity.
Yeah, and then more women do it.
Exactly.
And it just keeps building.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how these cultural norms can shape,
Yeah.
advancement in these fields.
It's not just one solution.
Yeah.
It's this whole ecosystem.
It is. It's really complex,
Uh-huh.
but it's really interesting. I'm really starting to see just how much goes into it.
Yeah, and what's so cool is that all of these countries we've talked about so far, not only are they geographically diverse,
Right.
but they also represent a variety of approaches to this.
So it's like a global mosaic of progress.
Right.
Where all these different pieces are contributing to the bigger picture.
Yeah.
But I think we also have to talk about the other side of the coin. Where are women still facing an uphill battle in the world of research?
That's what we're going to talk about next.
All right, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay. It's a bit disheartening to acknowledge that even with all this progress we've been talking about,
Yeah.
there are still a lot of places in the world
Yeah.
where women are really lagging behind.
Yeah, it's like we're seeing these two different realities where you have these trailblazers,
Yeah.
and then you have these other places where it's still,
It's almost like two different worlds.
yeah, it really is.
And what's striking is it's not just, developing nations
Right.
or countries with limited resources.
So even in wealthy developed nations,
Even
it's still an issue.
absolutely. Think about Austria,
Okay,
Netherlands,
really.
Germany.
Hmm.
They have surprisingly low percentages.
Of women researchers.
Yes.
Wow, I would not have guessed that.
I know, it's really surprising.
So what's at play in those countries?
Well, I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with those cultural norms.
Okay.
And those traditional gender roles.
Yeah.
Even in societies that may seem outwardly progressive,
Right.
there can be these underlying biases and expectations that sort of steer women away from these fields.
So can you give me an example of how that might manifest?
Sure, look at Japan.
Okay.
A technological powerhouse, right?
Yes.
But there's still this huge societal pressure on women to really prioritize family over career.
Yeah.
And those traditional roles often clash
Right.
with the demands of a research career.
Yeah, it's so demanding.
It is. Long hours, lots of travel, intense competition.
It's not really conducive
It's not.
to that kind of traditional family structure.
No.
It's interesting because it's like these implicit biases
Yeah.
that aren't,
There are not laws.
yeah, they're not laws.
Against it.
It's just this kind of underlying expectation.
Absolutely. And they start early.
Right.
Think about the toys that we give to little girls and little boys.
Yeah.
Girls get the dolls.
Right.
And the nurturing, the caring for things.
Right. They learn how to be mommies.
And boys get the Legos and the science kits.
Yeah. And then we wonder why they end up
Right.
in different fields.
Exactly.
It's so interesting how these small things,
Subtle things.
yeah, can have a huge impact down the line.
Huge.
Now let's look at sub-Saharan Africa,
Okay.
because this is a region that's facing a shortage
A huge shortage.
of researchers in general,
In general.
but particularly women
Yeah.
researchers.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things?
So now we're looking at a completely different context.
Yeah, and now we're talking about more than just those cultural norms.
More than that.
We're talking about also lack of opportunity.
Absolutely. Limited access to quality education,
Right.
especially for girls, is a huge, huge obstacle.
Right. If you can't even get...
Can't get in the door.
Yeah, if you can't even get in the door, how are you supposed to
How do you even...
get to the higher levels?
Exactly.
So it's this combination
Good poverty.
of, poverty, gender inequality, limited education.
Lack of resources.
Yeah, all these things.
It's this cycle
Yeah.
that can be really tough to break.
It is. And this is where I think it's important to acknowledge the role
Of governments.
of governments. Exactly.
And institutions.
Yeah, they have a huge role to play in creating those opportunities.
Absolutely. I mean, investing in girls' education is paramount.
So important.
Making sure there's access to quality primary, secondary, and even higher ed in STEM.
Yeah, but not just the education piece.
No.
What about once they're actually in?
Once they're in the workforce,
Yeah.
then we need policies
Okay.
that address that whole work-life balance issue.
Right.
We're talking childcare,
Yeah.
flexible work arrangements.
Yeah, it's about creating an environment where women can succeed and not feel like they have to choose between
Family or career.
Exactly.
And what about mentorship
Oh, that's a great point. Mentorship.
and networking?
Yeah. Connecting these women with,
The people
with people who can help them
who can help them.
advance.
Exactly.
It really does
A
take.
village.
Yeah.
A global village.
A global village, yes.
to make this happen.
It's not just on the women. It's
Yeah.
on all of us
It is.
to create these systems that support them.
A culture of support
Exactly.
and inclusion
Yes.
where these women feel valued
And empowered.
and empowered to do what they want to do.
It's so fascinating because we've been looking at all these different places.
Yeah.
And it seems like there's this thread
Uh-huh.
that connects it all, which is that economic development alone
Alone.
isn't enough
It's not enough.
to solve this issue.
It's not.
We're seeing it in wealthy countries.
Yeah.
We're seeing it in developing countries.
Uh.
So it's clearly,
More than just money.
yeah, it's about addressing
Those underlying cultural
those
norms.
underlying cultural norms and creating those policies
Yeah.
that really target the specific challenges
The specific challenges.
that women face.
Yes.
It's like we're trying to solve a puzzle,
We are.
but we don't have all the pieces.
Right.
And we need to find those missing pieces in order to
Create that full picture.
create that full picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's complex.
It is. Well, we've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
We have.
From those unexpected leaders to the really persistent challenges that we're seeing, even in some places where we wouldn't expect them.
Absolutely.
It seems like this issue
It is.
is way more complex
It is.
than maybe we initially thought.
And I think what we've really learned
Yeah.
is that there's no magic bullet.
Right.
There's no one thing.
It's not going to be easy
No.
to solve this.
It's going to take continuous work.
Yeah.
It's going to take awareness building.
Yeah.
It's going to take policy changes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to take those cultural shifts.
Yeah. And as we all continue learning about these, about these complex issues, I'm sure there'll be plenty more fascinating deep dives to come.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of women in research.
Yes.
Until next time, keep learning,
Mm-hmm.
keep questioning, and keep pushing for a more inclusive and equitable world for everyone.